And so we've grown it over the last 2 years from 2 million to 12 million. We'll probably do 18 million this year. That kind of 6x growth has been phenomenal. The AI flows and the AI campaigns that we've done just with Instant alone, it's 3 million. So it's been super powerful. So 3 million out of the 12 growth.
Wow, 25%.
Yeah, 25% of it.
From Instant.
Just from Instant. I actually believe the funnel's dead, and it's now learning loops. And it's really about using AI for your learning loops. Forget about the funnel.
What parts of the customer journey or learning loop should be AI driven?
The entire thing, except small businesses are going to realize that if they want to stay alive and if they want to scale, they've got to learn. Otherwise, these larger corporations are going to be able to make it impossible for them to succeed. You can get on the AI train and have a business in 5 or 10 years, or you can be reluctant and not get on the AI train and go bankrupt.
Jonathan, excited for this episode. We are, I just recorded the last episode in Palm Springs, but we're also in Palm Springs. What a place to be. Much warmer than SFO and New York, right?
Oh, it's lovely out. It's lovely out here.
You just arrived today?
Yeah, I just came in. Actually, I took a picture from the hotel of the pond outside for my 4-year-old, and he just loved it. He's like, "Papa, when can we do video?" So we're gonna do video after.
Nice. It's a beautiful place, and excited for so many people that are in our realm to be here this week.
Yeah.
So many people have seen your journey, or maybe haven't seen your journey, and you're quietly growing behind the scenes, which I feel like is the person you love to be. Just grow businesses as fast as they possibly can. But for people who don't know you, why don't you just give a quick introduction?
Yeah, so I'm Jonathan Shroyer. I would classify myself as a builder scaler. As I was coming over here, I was reminded of a comment that my wife made to me in 2015, right before I joined Postmates, my first startup company to join. She's like, "Hey, you're really bored in enterprise, and you've been in the enterprise for like 15 years of our marriage. Could you go get on board and go into startups?" And so I really like the entrepreneurial, the builder scaler, the innovator. So I kind of cut my teeth with Microsoft in the early days, 2001.
Right.
When Monster.com was kind of a big opportunity, a big company, I was there. Lived in India, lived in Boston, lived in London, love multiculturalism, love, getting different people's viewpoints. But at the end of the day, I really love to solve problems and 10x value that I can bring to that problem. And that's what got me into entrepreneurship, with a couple of exits that I had with Officium Labs and Quimby, and why I get so passionate about helping entrepreneurs grow and building my businesses.
I feel like joining Postmates so early would have been an incredible experience. I mean, momentum solves everything in every business, and Postmates was growing absolutely bonkers when you joined, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was insane. So my wife actually said, I wanted you to join a startup, but did you have to join a startup that was growing 10-15% per week?
Per week.
It was insane in the early days. And it basically meant, 100-hour weeks, 120-hour weeks, which I didn't have my 4-year-old at that time. So it was doable. But you're right, momentum does solve everything. And I think what I learned at Postmates is when you're growing a business, baseline 10-15% growth a week, when I was over customer service and the couriers, is things break every day. And so you can't try for perfection. You got to be like, how do we move forward? What do we do differently? Okay, that just broke. How do we fix it? And not necessarily duct tape fix it, but how do we actually fix it and think about what this is going to be in 4 months and 6 months and eight months. And so you can't work in years. You have to work in days and weeks at a company like that. And so I learned a ton there.
What do you think are the differences between a company that moves slow and a company that moves fast? Like, can you replace just working hard?
I think the big difference between a company that moves slow and a company that moves fast is you have to have a different mindset. So Nelson Mandela said, "I never lose, I only win or learn." So in both of those companies, that mindset works, and because you're figuring out what are the learnings and how do you grow. In the second company, that mindset is even more critical, because you can't let mistakes, failures, however you want to deem them, if you're moving 10-15% per week, you got to say, "Hey, I learned it. It's behind me. I got to go." With a slower company, you might be able to stop, think about it, think about a strategy to make it better, have a meeting about it, and maybe
all
you
the
fix
meetings.
the meetings, right? When you're in a fast growing company, like you got to limit the amount of meetings because it has to be about action and momentum, being smart about it, but action and momentum.
You purchased Linda's a few years ago.
That's right.
Which is now a fast growing brand. When you purchased Linda's after a couple of exits, it had $2 million of revenue.
That's right.
What has that journey been like? That's what you're spending most of your time on today.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was interesting. So Linda's my sister owned, and she had kind of grown the business for the last 20
Was her
years.
name Linda?
No, her name's Diana, actually.
Right.
Although Linda she does YouTube videos for us.
Okay.
She lives in kind of the Montana, Wyoming area, so she's a lovely lady. But Linda was the original quilter, long armor, and she had a PBS special for a number of years back in the early 2000s. But my sister's like, hey, I'd like to retire. Do you want to come and buy this business? And I'm in tech and gaming, just had my recent exit at Officium Labs 20X. And I was like, I don't know that much. I know how to sew, but I don't know that much about e-commerce and about the brand. And so I went in and did an analysis, and I saw a $6 billion TAM opportunity sitting wide open with very little technology, very little general innovation that was happening, a good CAGR of growth, recession-proof, 4 to 6%, so not hockey stick growth as an industry, but a huge opportunity that I could probably come in and build a nice moat if I thought about it properly and did it appropriately. And so we've grown it over the last 2 years from 2 million to 12 million. We'll probably do 18 million this year. So that kind of 6x growth has been phenomenal because it's been such a sleepy industry that we introduced things that got customers excited about coming to Linda's.
Walk us through what has actually changed since taking it on to drive that level of growth.
Yeah, I would say there's three main things that have changed. The first one, I would say, is awareness. So Linda's has had an amazing reputation in the state of Texas for a very long time, but it wasn't much well known outside of Texas. And so we leveraged AI, we leveraged different marketing capabilities to be able to drive greater awareness. So when I came into Linda's, they had 20,000 customers. Now Linda's has 400,000 customers, right? And so it's about how do we get out of the noise and focus on the signal of getting our message to these customers in the right way. And so we use AI to do that. So the first one is awareness. The second one is product expansion. So when I came into the business, they had 4,000 products. And when I looked at the TAM opportunity, I was like, we have to have 100,000 products if we want to become the one-stop shop that creates joy for quilters, right? And so we went after that. And we did about a little bit differently. Most people come in and say, hey, I'm going to build a big warehouse. I'm going to buy a bunch of products. I'm going to market it. And they're going to love it, and they're going to buy it. And I said, well, that takes a lot of working capital, and I don't have that much working capital. So what I did was I built a network of craft-specific drop shippers that plugged in, and we build a back-end AI technology that plugs everybody in. And so now we have 50,000 products,
right,
but we only warehouse three.
Products.
3,000.
3,000, yeah.
3,000 products. And so our focus has been, how do you create value for these other manufacturers, these other quilt stores, while you're bringing their brands and their opportunity to your Linda's customers. So it's about...
So you're still getting the scale benefit.
That's right. You're still getting the scale without the working capital. And because you're tapping into the ecosystem for inventory, then you're building up local economies, because some of these quilt stores only have 100 products, but they have 100 cool products that nobody knows about, right? And other ones have 1,000 products, right? So, but you get to build those local economies. And then we flipped it on its head now through Shopify with the collective, where we let every quilt store in America that wants have free access to Linda's products and take a 15% commission if they sell it on their website and in their store.
Right.
So we're really trying to grow that ecosystem of crafters. So nobody had done anything like this in crafting. And so that SKU expansion was the second piece. And the third piece will sound simple, but it's super important when you scale. And that's amazing customer service. Like, we get back to people in hours. It's so important that when I was at Postmates, I learned this. They got hungry in 45 minutes. They got angry at an hour, and they got hangry at 75 minutes. And then they got thangry, which I won't say the word, but you can imagine what that means, at 90 minutes. And so that really taught me the importance of, if somebody's buying a product that they really love and that they really want, quickly, and crafters want their products quickly because they're creating that joy for their family, that we have to have amazing customer service.
What does your team look like today to actually do all of this?
So we've got a what I call T-shaped employees. So these are employees that can go broad, but can also go very deep in a certain discipline. And so we have about 10 of them. And so they're all, I think, eight out of the 10 are family members.
Okay.
So I kept my sister on as the affiliate director. My nephew is actually the powerhouse marketing kind of face of the company. Everybody in crafting knows Chief Coulter Corey from Linda's, and he's phenomenally extroverted where I'm introverted. And I've got my sister that runs the retail store. I've got my nephew's partner that runs the warehouse, and so we're a family business, and we brought some outside talent in to help us grow.
Why do you think sleepy verticals are so underrated? I mean, Linda's is arguably, a pretty sleepy vertical, right?
Yeah.
You've changed that, the business's trajectory in the level of growth that you've experienced over the last couple of years, but it still lives within a sleepy vertical. Everyone, when they go and start a business, they go and chase the shiny thing that everyone's talking about.
Right. That's right.
So competitive. Meta's, impossible to advertise on. Organic gets you nowhere. Whereas some of the biggest success and profit margins seems to come from sleepy businesses or sleepy verticals.
That's right.
With massive growth opportunity.
And I think the opportunity is to look at verticals that aren't sexy, that people don't want to go and say, hey, I raised $50 million on a $2 billion valuation because I'm changing the world, right? Those are good, and we need passionate people like that in the world to be innovative. But you also need people like me that aren't those people that be like, hey, there's something over there, and I'm a scalar builder, and I like to be in the background, not in the foreground. So there's something in there. The data's telling me that there's something magical, and I just need to go figure out how to get that magic. So you need somebody that sees opportunity. I was watching the Diary of a CEO podcast. And
It's a great podcast.
Yeah, it's a great podcast. I watch every episode. And he was interviewing someone who found a sleepy vertical in trailer parks.
Right.
And who's going to go and invest in trailer parks today? Well, nobody thinks about that. But that guy, he sat down and he said, you know what? I think the trailer parks are sleepy and I need to go after the trailer parks. And he made multi-millions on it. And he brought value to his customers. So I think you just have to find those areas that people aren't paying attention to and then look at the data. And if the data tells you there could be magic, then go after it.
You take on a new business that's, let's say doing $2 million, kind of similar to the Linda's when you first took it on. Sleepy vertical, business with huge opportunity. What are you doing first, particularly in a world like today with AI, so much automation, arguably not even the need for so many employees. Yet most businesses struggle to grow because they just rely on things that are overly expensive.
Yeah, I think it's a good question. And so the CEO of OpenAI, he came out recently, he said, we think that there's an opportunity for somebody to build $1 billion company and be a single employee. He made that statement. And what I think is interesting about that statement is that we're not close to that yet, but we can be. And if you have that mindset when you're building a business, then you can see like, well, do I need to use AI for this or do I need to use human capital?
Sure.
Right? And it really changes the mindset. And I think, so that's one component of it, but that's actually not the most valuable.
That's been the biggest thing is the mindset shift.
Yeah, it's the mindset shift. Even inside my own company is the mindset shift, because I come in with a laser light focus view on certain topics. I have autism, so sometimes I really hyper focus on things. And I come in with a perspective that's outside of the industry, right? And it didn't even take my team 6 months to a year to adapt. And even they're my family members, but still it took them time to adapt to having me as a business partner.
Do you think a lot of people are struggling to adapt to things like AI because of job justification and fearing losing their job? Or do you think that it's something different?
I think it's trust. So this is the way I look at it, is if somebody believed that and knew that AI could help them become a superpower employee, then they would immediately adopt AI and become a superpower employee because that would make them indispensable, because not everybody's going to do that. But the chasm for you and me to get to adopt AI is much smaller than the chasm for somebody that's not as integrated in technology for most of their life. And so some people see that chasm as too far. And so if there's not a bridge builder, if there's not somebody building that bridge to show them how to do it and to build that trust, then they're going to have a difficult time adopting it. And at the same time, you have technology companies who are just laying off junior engineers.
Yeah.
And saying, figure it out.
AI is better.
AI is better, figure it out. So I think it's a matter of trust. And I think over time, AI and what's happening with it is inevitable. Momentum solves everything. Momentum will solve it with AI, and it will take people. So you can get on the AI train and have a business in 5 or 10 years, or you can be reluctant and not get on the AI train and go bankrupt, right? And so I think it's really important that you take the time to have that mindset shift.
It's I compare the shift in AI kind of similar to the creative shift a few years ago when Canva started. When Canva started, everyone feared Canva. Every agency feared Canva. Every creative agency thought it was going to take their job. The best creative agencies today, the best creators, the best digital designers use Canva in their business. And I think that same shift is coming with AI. Majority of agencies that you speak to today fear it because they're losing professional services work. They don't embrace it. They're losing clients. However, the best agencies that do will ultimately win.
I think you're right. But I think the human capital is what everybody talks about with AI, but the more powerful thing is actually the data. Because one of the things that we learned at Linda's is we needed to change the signal to noise ratio, which is, I didn't create that. Steve Jobs said it ages ago, signal to noise. But we wanted to focus on the signal of the data so that we could target the right customers to get them into our store to buy our products. And so we actually started using AI with data analytics first, so we can understand demography, so we can understand targeting, so we can understand identity, so we can understand what's the best way for the business to monetize, but to bring that value to the customer. And that's where I think it's most powerful, that a lot of people are not using AI today, and they can be in their Shopify stores today. There's ChatGPT. If they have Triple that Triple is using cloud, right? They're not really adopting AI in that way, and that could be more powerful than them hyper-focusing on the human capital side.
How do you think businesses should be using AI at the simplest level? There's obviously things in retention marketing, which we'll get to soon, and et cetera. But at the simplest level, what's like the bare basics a brand should be using?
So from my perspective, if you're an e-commerce brand, simplest level, you should be using AI for identities. That way, you know 60 to 70% of your traffic on your site versus 10%. That way, you can monetize them 6 to 7 times X, right? You should be using AI for ads. You shouldn't be using a paid media person to tell you where you should spend your money, whether it's on Meta, Bing, Google. AI should completely optimize that. You should be using AI for retargeting, whether it's retargeting through email, SMS, or through Connect TV. That's the simplest thing. Like if you want to come in and use AI, you can have AI tap into your data, your Shopify data, and within less than 2 weeks, increase your revenue.
What are you doing in email and SMS today?
So in email and SMS, I do identity matching. And so there's the AI brain that does the identity piece. And then there's so to back up a little bit, you asked me a question off air, what products do I use, inside of Linda's to grow 6X. So there's some products that we use that we plug into the ecosystem and some IP that we've developed at Linda's as well.
I thought it was really interesting that you build in-house.
Yeah.
You don't just rely on things that are on the market today to grow.
Right. That's because things that are on the market can't help me grow.
Right.
Like if the solution was there, then I wouldn't have created it, right?
Yeah.
I'm a buy versus build guy. But if it's not there, you got to build it. So I would say, we created some things of our own IP, and then we've adopted, platforms that help us with identity, that help us with flows, that help us with CTV, and then we use the paid media platforms as well. So the brain sits on top, and the agentic bots sit below it, and that drives the customer retention. So that's kind of what we use AI for today.
Why is retention marketing even important?
So, I think from my perspective, you have to understand what's your LTV to CAC ratio.
And what should it be?
So it depends on the vertical.
Right.
So my vertical, it needs to be 9.
Okay.
So mine currently today is 25. So, but it needs to be 9. Margins are super slim in the quilting space. So we're talking about EBITDA of 10 to 15%. But you could be in a vertical, an electronic vertical, where your EBITDA is much higher, 20, 30%. So your LTV to CAC might only need to be 4 or 5.
Right.
But AI can also tell you that. But the LTV to CAC is super important. And this is why retention is important, because what you need to figure out is how many orders does a customer need to make to become your customer for life. For Linda's, it's 4.8.
Orders.
Once they have 4.8 orders, they're my customer for life. And I'm grateful for that. So if you're listening, thank you. But it's 4.8. And every business with AI analytics can know what that number is. And then they can balance the cost that they spend on paid media with the LTV over CAC ratio and what number of orders. And once they hit that secret sauce, then they can scale to first order profitability. And then, Bob's your uncle, as I say.
First order profitability is really important for Linda's.
I think it's super important. It should be super important for every e-commerce business. There should be in my opinion, from the rooftops, you should be focusing on first order profitability. If you're working,
most brands would only make, and I'd say most of the brands that work with Instant today, just not because of Instant, but just across e-commerce in general, would be generating profit on at least their second, if not their third order. That's
right. Outside of subscription services, which depend on the 12-month subscription for LTV over CAC, most consumables or single sell product businesses should be focusing on first order profitability. If it's a subscription business, then there's a little bit of wiggle room there. And there are ways to do that. And then if you can do that, then you can compete against the bigger brands who have the war chest of cash that you don't have. And I think that's what's super critical with retention marketing, is getting those customers coming back, loving your brand, and then delivering amazing service so they never leave.
So email and SMS is a huge part of your strategy of bringing these shoppers back to convert. What do you... Email, obviously, Instant is a huge part of that strategy. Maybe just explain to people how you're using that.
So the way I do it today is, I have the identities, and I use that identities for ads. So ads brings in new customers. But what the identities does for me is I'm able to identify organic customers that didn't purchase, as well as paid customers that didn't purchase. And then I retarget them with instant AI flows and with SMS to be able to help me attract that customer and talk in their own language. And what I love about AI and instant in this case is that it creates a unique flow for every customer. And that's what I tell people that's different, is that it creates a unique flow. So it's the exact flow that Barbara in Wisconsin needed. It's the exact flow that Linda in Texas needed to get them to convert, right? And so that's a big component. But the last piece of first order profitability is connected TV. So in America, there's 550 TV streaming apps. So that identity that I have, I can now match to the TV channels that they're watching. And if they didn't convert, send them a high fidelity, low cost TV commercial that reminds them why they love Linda's and why they should convert. And so the ROAS on connected TV for me is 30x.
Wow.
Right. And so they came to me via paid or organic. I retargeted them with SMS and email. Maybe it didn't work the first time. I get them on TV.
So right? I'm just investing in the entire funnel.
You got to invest. I call it the trifecta. Have the brain at the top for identities, and then you have the trifecta of targeting them. Most brands, the customer has to look at your brand 6 to 7 times before they purchase. Linda's 30.
Right.
30 times. And so it's really important that trifecta is set up to ensure that I'm always on the customer's mind. Because in this day and age, if Linda's and the best craft company isn't on those hobbyist minds, then I'm not succeeding.
Why don't you fear experimentation? And it might sound crazy to say, but I think a lot of brands and a lot of founders particularly, they buy the things that everyone else is using. Yeah. There's a million case studies for. They're almost scared to be first. Whereas it seems like for Linda's and just throughout your career, you're obsessed with being first. If there's no solution on the market today, I'll build it. I don't care if there's case studies. I'll just give it a go. If it works, I'll keep it. If it fails, I'll get rid of it. Why are you so obsessed with experimentation? Why don't you fear it?
I think it's a great question. When I was young, I grew up in a family of 10. And in a family of 10, if you've ever done the psychology of families, I was the eldest male, which in the patriarchal South had different connotations than it does today. But I was still in the middle. And so if you want to stand out in a family of 10, if you want to get attention of your parents, you've got to be innovative. you've got to be different. You've got to be unique, right? You only have so much time with it. And then if you want to stand out, I played basketball and track, which were not, sports that were played by very many of my peers. And so if I wanted to stand out, I had to do things differently. Like I adopted Kareem Abdul's hook shot because I knew that I was not fast enough to shoot against my competitors. So I think it comes down to like, where did I come from? And then when I got into business, being a problem solver and a data junkie, then I was like, okay, like the data is telling me we could do better. The data, why is this data not better? And I just get obsessed about the opportunity to improve it.
What do you think that most brands are getting wrong about retention marketing, customer loyalty today? It's obviously a big part, whether you're first order profitability, doesn't matter in this case. Every brand wants the same shopper to come back consistently and purchase. Whether they're a first-time shopper making their first purchase and actually getting the purchase in the first place, or purchasing forever. What are most brands getting wrong when it comes to retention marketing today?
I think 3 things that brands are afraid of. And when you have fear, then that means you make different decisions. I think the first one is they hyper-focused on their brand. They want to be the Apple of their vertical, and they don't have the working capital to be the Apple of their vertical, but still they want. And it slows them down. It slows their decision-making down. It halts progress. It halts innovation. So you can build a great brand. You don't need to be the most pristine, the most perfect, the prettiest pixel. You can do a lot of things that are amazing without having the brand be the best. I think the second thing is not enough brands pay attention to analytics. And so they trust other people to give them their answers. And they pay these other people lots of money to give them their answers, but they're not analysts. They trust ad firms, or they trust consultants, or they trust, people in the industry they know that they have as advisors. That's all good. I'm not saying you shouldn't have those things. I'm just saying trust but verify. Having either yourself or somebody that's really good at data that's verifying everything that you're doing and that it's actually helping drive towards your strategy and towards your vision. So that's the second thing. And then I think the third thing is mentorship. They need to go talk to other people that have walked in these puddles. Like I've stepped in lots of puddles in my career. I've had a career coach since I was 26. I've had a therapist since I was 25. I've had 5 mentors since I was 23. And they tell me, when things stink. And they tell me when things aren't going well, or they give me advice. And I find new mentors. Like when I came into the quilting industry, what do I know about quilting business? So I have like 3 mentors in the quilting industry where I'm bouncing ideas off of, because then it accelerates my ability to achieve. And so I think that's the third thing is mentorship.
I think one of the biggest things is, as I said before, is just the lack of experimentation, particularly in the world of AI. Brands, it's kind of, everyone tells you about the fact, particularly in e-commerce, that they were first to use Afterpay or they were first to use Affirm. And the brands that truly won that time of just grow were the brands that jumped on buy now, pay later so quickly.
That's right.
In today's world, that's AI. And you've got tools out there that can experiment on your point around data and analytics. Taking that a bit further, like these tools can experiment so rapidly on what converts best.
That's right.
How to get a shopper to repeat purchase.
That's right.
Where they're getting stuck in the funnel, etc.
That's right.
I think experimentation is such a big part.
Well, I think that the one thing I wanted to mention, since you mentioned the funnel, is I actually believe the funnel is dead.
Right.
And it's now learning loops. That's what I call it. I did a blog post about this on LinkedIn last week. And it's really about using AI for your learning loops, because that's what's going to help you be successful. Forget about the funnel. Learning loops, that's where the key is.
If you looked at, with the learning loops now, then looking, replacing the customer journey and learning loops, what parts of the customer journey or learning loop should be AI driven, in your opinion, today, if you're, went into any e-commerce brand?
The entire thing, except when a customer has an issue, they need to talk to a human.
The entire thing.
You can automate the entire thing, except that. And then right now, depending on your sensitivity to brand, you might want to do your own creatives.
How do you think about that? Your sensitivity of brand.
I have no sensitivity because the creatives that I create with AI are better than the creatives that were on Linda's before I joined the company, and probably just as good as most creatives. But Linda's is an edgy brand. We're not like the polished crafts brand. We're the edgy brand that's not going to do everything perfect, but we're going to give you a great deal, great service, and great product, right? So we use AI for almost everything. I can't use AI for logistics yet. Partially, I can use it for part of logistics, but not the human part of packing the boxes, and
Sure.
and the machines aren't quite there yet for some of the products that we carry. But I would say for the most part, you can use AI if you're bold, if you have courage for 90% of it.
The other area of significant adoption is, or investment, time, energy. A lot of brands are looking into it, is just personalization. It's the talk of the town.
That's right.
Everyone's been talking about personalization forever. It's never been possible before for an e-commerce manager or a marketing manager to sit down and send a unique email or a unique SMS to every shopper that visits their website. But now you can.
Or a unique notification. We have AI notifications on our site that target Barbara, that target Linda, that target Jane or Bob. And we reach out and say, hey, we noticed you came to the site, you didn't purchase. It's a pop-up notification that they accept, when they log into the site, and they get these notifications, which is AI driven. So it's really focused. And it caters it based off of that. And then the data analytics that we feed back into our identities, it all takes into account, where's a customer at on our website, where's the customer at in their general journey, and it helps to target that. So companies that are innovating in that space, which will be more plug and play and scalable for brands, are going to be kind of really future-proof companies in the e-commerce space, because that's a really hard problem that is not easy for people to solve if they haven't got past the AI chasm that we talked about earlier. So companies that can bridge that and help them solve that personalization are going to be the multi-billion-dollar brands in the commerce space.
Absolutely. And the brands that are growing the fastest are just adopting AI
That's right.
faster than ever.
That's right.
So a shopper lands on Linda's today.
Yep.
They might be unknown.
Yep.
Instant or another platform, whatever, would identify that shopper, remember them forever.
Yep.
They leave, they add an item to their cart.
Yep.
They are remembered on your website. They leave. They'll now get an email, but that email will be hyper personalized to the items they've viewed on the website, copy about what they've viewed on the website, offers that are, pulled from the website, whether you update your offer for Black Friday or whatever it is, the flows are automatically adjusted to present that information. Then it takes into account things like the shopper's information, like where they're based or their previous shopping behavior, and will send them an email at the perfect moment.
That's part of it, and that's an important part of it. But I want you to take that expansion, and I want you to take that data, and that same thing happens on connected TV. That same thing happens back into paid media.
That's the power.
So that's the power of the trifecta. It's not the flows in the SMS is great, but first order profitability, that enriched data goes back to the customer to bring value to the customer in those other mechanisms where they're already looking at.
Capturing that data in the first place. How do you capture it? Like, what is the strategy at Linda's? You obviously need to get that information from somewhere. Do you present pop-ups, forms? Like, what is your strategy to try and get that information?
So we do it two main ways. So one is we plug into different identity graphs. Like Instant has an identity graph, about 1 billion or so, I think. We plug into identity graphs, so that's one mechanism. We have pop-up forms, which is another mechanism. And then we have sister affiliate sites, which is another mechanism.
Okay.
So we pull it from all of those sources, then the AI validates it, marries it up, and then places it into our CRM. And then we leverage that identity data from the CRM, let's say unsubscribe, and then we unsubscribe them. But we leverage that data from the CRM to be able to target the customer in a way that we bring them value for things that they want. We don't want to overly spam them, but we're like, hey, what's your next project? What's the spring project? We know you have a summer project. We know you have a winter. We know our customers and the demography, and so we try to help them.
And you think that's definitely driven revenue growth for the business?
It's the reason why the business has grown. Like the business would be a $3 million business if I hadn't installed the trifecta and pulled in that data, and that's the signal to noise ratio. Is because now all those customers are first order profitable. And once they get to 4.8 orders, I'm my customers for life.
And if you broke it down, what do you think TV is driving versus retention?
So I would say if you easily take $1 million, we'll say TV drives about 20% of it. Paid media probably drives about 20% of it, and the rest of it comes from the middle. Whether it's flows or AI campaigns.
How are you investing in AI campaigns?
Well, the cool,
Campaigns is email campaigns with AI has been pretty powerful for lenders.
That's right. That's right. In fact, I was looking at it. If you combine the AI flows and the AI campaigns that we've done in the last 7 months, just with Instant alone, it's $3 million. So it's been super powerful. So 3 million out of the 12, right? So that 1/4 of the revenue, 25% growth.
Wow, 25%.
Yeah, 25% of the
From Instant.
just from Instant. And so it breaks out kind of that way. We're noticing a massive increase in CTV. And because what we've noticed, at least with our demographic, is our customers love to watch TV from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. their local time. And so we've been doing an experiment, and this is the experimentation. The reason why I don't fear experimentation is because how do you grow if you don't experiment? Like if you have fear around you, you're never going to go anywhere.
I think everyone's just copycats normally.
Yeah. So you have to experiment. You have to try, or you're not going to get there. But we're noticing that CTV is becoming a super interesting vertical and component for our overarching strategy. And we're actually moving money from Facebook. The AI is, not me, but the AI is moving money from like Facebook and Google and moving it to CTV because it optimizes across the platform.
See, these shifts are crazy, and I don't think people saw them coming as quickly as they have. What do you think will be to end on this note, what do you think will be the biggest shifts over the next 12 months? Let's say we caught up in December this year. Yeah. What are you doing at Linders? And what do you think will be the biggest changes this year?
I think the biggest shift for Linders specifically is that AI will allow us to double our customer base from 400,000 to 800,000 in 12 months. But this strategy that we put in place will allow us to get that signal to just double our customer base. And we'll probably be 18 to 24 million next year, right? So I think that's the big shift is that now that's going to adopt. So it's the momentum solves everything that you mentioned earlier, is now I'm getting the momentum or network effect for those of us that like the blockchain. I used to be in a blockchain company. So network effect, that network effect is going to happen. So I think for Lynda specifically, I think for AI more broadly, what you're going to find is that small businesses are going to realize that if they want to stay alive and if they want to scale, they've got to learn. Whether they do the learning themselves, whether they bring somebody in that already has the knowledge, they've got to learn. Otherwise, these larger corporations are going to be able to make it impossible for them to succeed.
They will eat them.
They will eat them. That's right. Yeah. So they have to learn. So I think that's the biggest shift. You will see a lot of 3 to 50 million GMV businesses do a massive amount of learning and realize that there's a phrase in Korea. It's called puri puri. It's like, hurry, hurry, we're already behind.
Right.
Right? Samsung uses it a lot because my wife was a principal over there. And so it's like they've got to learn. They've got to hurry because they're already behind.
And the equivalent of that in e-commerce today is that if AI isn't driving 20 to 30 to 40% of your revenue, you're already behind.
That's right.
And if you don't catch up in the next couple of months, it's almost starting to become the world where it's impossible to catch up.
That's right.
Because large, small, your competitors are just going to eat you alive. I think it's pretty incredible watching the journey of Linders. Great to be working together.
Yeah.
Interested to hear, I was so fascinated to hear your thoughts on AI, particularly, if something's not on the market today, just building it yourselves internally is wild. And it's a huge reason why you're growing as fast as you are today and faster than the business has ever grown. It's crazy to think that 2 years ago, you were generating $2 million a year. In the last 7 months, you've generated $3 million just from one platform using AI, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's been an amazing journey, and I'm ever learning. And so I know offline you and I should catch up. And I've got like an architect roadmap of all the AI ideas that I'm thinking about. But there's a lot of fun stuff out there. And really, I would say...
You also work with some brands, right? With Foresight?
Yeah. So, because Linda's was so successful with the IP that we created, I'm an entrepreneur, all right? So I was like, well, I wonder if other brands are having this problem. So I did a test last summer with 4 brands. I said, hey, you don't have to pay me anything. Just use this kind of framework I put together. The best performing brand was a small brand, but it grew from $500 a month to $30,000.
Right.
And then the worst performing brand grew 30% over the summer. And I was like, okay, there's There's a problem. There's a 10x value solution. Let's take it to market. We took it to market in November. We have like 50 customers now since November. But really, it's about how do you create that value, leveraging AI and helping these small businesses, helping whether it's a quilt shop, whether it's an electronic shop, whether it's an e-commerce. I was talking with someone today. They're like, "Hey, I want to start an e-commerce company for boats." Great. Let's talk about it. How do you do it? Can you use AI? Be AI first.
You no longer need a million people, a million different
That's
agencies.
Right. If you think AI first and pay attention to data, you're going to succeed.
Data.
Data. Yeah. Either way, the British or the Australian or the American way, whichever you say it. If you're paying attention to it, you're going to win.
That's it. Jonathan, thanks for coming on the podcast. Great to have you and excited for an incredible year ahead.
Thank you, good sir.